Welcome back to some professional StarCraft to a best of 3 Terran versus Zerg battle. I'm excited to introduce the Red Zerg. It's been a while since we've seen her. It's Scarlet. And on the other side of the map, the People's Terran. In the blue, it's Kier. I think about evenly matched. If I was a betting man, which I'm certainly not, I would possibly give Kier the edge in this matchup. But best of 3 is not a whole lot of games for dramatic things to happen here in the ESL Cup. I think Scarlet definitely has a good shot. Starting things off, first Reaper. The intense back and forth of whether the Reaper will kill a Ling, maybe a drone. So far, it killed a Ling and mostly did emotional damage to everything else, which is about the extent of it. For your average Reaper, especially when Beyond isn't involved. And TVZ, on the new patch, Scarlet's kind of signature move, if you can call it that, is incredibly efficient and effective creep spread. That, well, Kier taking a focus to it as well. Enough damage on the Reaper to drive it away. But with the new patch, the creep tumor cooldown increased by several seconds. Creep itself has slightly less vision. Bit of mutiny there with the queens. But overall, I haven't seen it affecting the creep near the bases too much, but in the later game, we've been seeing a lot less of the creep kind of covering the entire map. As replacing it takes more time, and okay, you just drive it in here, Kira? Oh, Evo Chamber block from Scarlet. The first Reaper and 2 Hellions just kind of saunter into the base. Scarlet brings the drones back at a bit of a inconvenient timing, and they will get roasted. 5 of them. Gets into the main. Gets a decent scout off. So, okay. Well, let's kind of take stock of this. 5 drones for the first Reaper and 2 Hellions, which might seem like a good trade with the scout. And I'd say it is. But you've also just given up any sort of presence on the map for another minute or two, especially when you show the Viking, which obviously you want to take out those overlords that are sitting on those fancy pillars there, hanging out, looking down on you. But that means Scarlet's going to be free to creep about the cabin, and I'm sure she will be already sending queens to every angle, trying to be as efficient as possible with relatively limited queens early. Especially trying to replace those drones. Interesting choice. Some Terrans will occasionally dive in, usually with more than 2 Hellions, but that was the best chance before more Zerglings were added on to block exactly that. Hellions will find a couple creep tumors here. Slice them off for now, before they metastasize too far, but Kier has quite a bit of work to do. Gonna commit a scan. He did go 3 CC. He gets 2 more. In fact, doing a good job with the little that was invested earlier. Liberator added on behind the Viking. Liberator a little bit cheaper. 125 gas as opposed to 150. Alongside 150 minerals than it was. Kier adding on 4 racks back at home. Hellions thinking about coming by again. The Queen quite upset, though unable to do much about it. On around. Liberator into the main. The siege is up on a Spore Crawler. So not the ideal use case of a Liberator there, but trying to work both angles doesn't get too much on either. The big thing here for Kier is the 1-1. The upgrades and the economy are looking very good for the Korean Terran. Whereas Scarlet, she's got a lair. The Baneling Nest is just finishing up, which means Baneling speed is quite far out. And the upgrades are almost a minute behind. So, overall, Kier shaping up to be in a comfortable position on 3 bases. Not going to have to worry about any big attacks on the 3rd, at least in the near future. So can start setting up medevac pushes, which is usually the back and forth, the give and take of the mid-game in this matchup. And has been pretty much since StarCraft 2 has existed. Armory on the way. Already. Even a little preempting the 1-1, though it'll definitely be done in time. 5 racks. We'll see if he adds on more factories or if he adds on more racks first back at home, assuming we get there. First medevac sent out. Where's the second one? Did just maybe a little supply blocked or something. Anyways, that's not a wall. I'm not sure if Kier thought it was one or just hadn't finished it yet, but the Zerglings so kindly notifying Kier that isn't a wall, not able to get much done as the reinforcements will take them out before they can trickle around the end of the depots there. 1-1 is done now, and Kier has brought his army together. Oh, he's got the armory done, which means he can start +2 does, as well as adding on another factory. So it's going to be heavy Widow Mine, very likely, and then maybe later on some tanks. And Scarlet doesn't have Baneling speed done. It's only about halfway done. I think a little late on starting that. Adding a bunch more drones, has a 4th, and a macro hatch here. Yes, very important. But Kier has a whole lot of Terran. And without Baneling speed, it's going to be quite hard to engage this arm. Scarlet added a whole lot of Banelings to try to make up for it here, though. Hellbat's going to try to hold the line. And those non-speed Banes. Well, there is creep. And Kier, in typical Kier fashion, is not quite confident in microing against the Banelings. But overall, definitely a good trade for the Terran. Hydra's on the back line. The Marines are standing their ground. Medevac's running out of energy, reinforced by the next wave. Some more Widow Mines. The other Widow Mines are recharging. Baneling speed is done, but I don't know if there are any Banelings on the map right now. Only 2 of them. Widow Mine connects. 1 medevac down, but the Marines holding the line at the edge of the creep, which has receded back to the hatchery. Yeah, no creep tumors on this side. The Queen count down to 3, which is barely enough to inject some of these hatcheries. A bunch of Lings coming back from the other side of the map. A few Banelings left to potentially counterattack. And with all the extra Lings, Kier is going to be forced to pick up what he can and get out. Ooh, some of the reinforcing Marines caught in a bit of an odd rally point. Banelings. Sir, we have a permit. Sir, papers, please. Unfortunately, Banelings do not have arms, so they cannot carry papers. Thus, they must be killed. Glory to Zergstotska. Well, you're unable to make too much headway, but definitely comfortable back at home. Not taking any economic damage really to Baneling counterattacks, to Zerglings. In fact, the Zerglings and Banelings more testing the effectiveness of the wall as opposed to threatening the economy. And Kier sitting on about to be a 4th command center, 2-2 finishing. The one issue is Scarlet has been left mostly unchecked as well. She's not going to have a hive particularly quick. Is there an infestation pit? No, not yet. It's just +2 Carapace on the way as well. Hydras are chasing down the medevacs mid-map. And overall, Scarlet has acquitted herself well. Scott, it doesn't get too much better besides a quicker hive. The Baneling speed a little late. The infestation pit maybe arguably a little late. But overall, more than enough at 95 drones. Arguably too many drones, but very Scarlet. As Kier methodically taken his 4th. Not particularly quick on that either. 77 SCVs is a very comfortable number for this M&M-styled Terran. Marines, medevacs, mines, maybe eventually some Marauders. A surprising lack of them. More Marines! Gun down the Queen! No mercy as they stem onto the creep. A whole bunch of Hydras, Lings, and Banes are going to look to challenge them, though. Medevacs pick up, kind of stutter a bit there, but eventually get away with most of the Marines committed on that side. And yeah, it looks like the lack of Marauders becoming clear here. As Kier adds on 4 tech labs. Of course, that also leads in to Ghosts potentially later on. Wow! There's so much, I was going to say airspace, but it's more like space. So just regular space? Anyways, no way any units that don't fly are getting those medevacs. Terran players out there, if you ever need to float your buildings to a corner, well, Hive halfway done. Triple upgrades for Scarlet, who's definitely focused on this Hydraling Bane mass swarm composition. Now sending Widowmine warding the way, mostly the explosive version of an observer in this case. Oh, Scarlet notices. Meanwhile, Hydra's Lings and Banes on the left flank. Already a tank waiting. Cure moves army into position, but guess what? Scarlet's coming in from the other side as well. Command center destroyed. Attack thrown back at the third, but the mineral line exposed. And 10 SCVs. 14 go down. The Hydras are driven back, though, as Scarlet forced to regroup with 76 Zerglings in the production tab. This was all a little bit before +2 melee. Adrenal Glands on the way. +1 ranged attack, but Cure is going to bounce back with a vengeance. The army supply 113 to 93. And Cure's about to hit 3-3. Hitting multiple sides of the map, driving, at least carving some of the creep out of the way. And Scarlet's still struggling on the queen count. 5 queens for 7 hatcheries. So Injects on their own a struggle. Cure. Now expect settlements in the wreckage, brothers. I don't know what happened there, but a few of those units left behind. The Medivacs trying to escape. The Hydra's noticing them, but I think they will just barely get away unless he decides to fly directly into all of them. Oh, the sensor tower's right there, but Cure heads back the other direction. Ghosts have joined the production tab. Still no other Hive tech for Scarlet. No Vipers, just Adrenal Glands and upgrades, but that might be enough. She crashes into the third. The tanks hold the back line. The SCVs have retreated. An attack on the right flank. These are just changelings throwing me off on the minimap. Another sensor tower is going to be set up to deal with this. The rocks going to be taken down to open up more avenues of attack. Potential planetary building mid-map right down the center here. Not a bad base for Terran to take to stage attacks later on. And the drop on the back left takes out a hatchery of Scarlets, gets up and gets out. Scarlet trickling in Banelings, but the Marauders are holding the line. The meat shield there, more than enough to blunt the force of that attack. Now Vipers on the way, but the Ghosts have already begun production. Ghosts a kind of built-in counter to the Vipers in some ways. But of course the Vipers can be very helpful against this medevac count, which I imagine is much of their purpose here. Viper pops out, Viking takes it down. I don't even know why there are Vikings here, but you're happy about it. Maybe expecting exactly that. Never hurts to have a couple Vikings. The Marines doing a lot of damage here as Scarlet cleans up, I believe, a drop on the other side of the map, but this is really the set of medevacs she needs to worry about. Though the Marine count is so low that the medevacs have almost individual Marines to heal until they run out of energy, at least. 17 drones down here, as Cure maintains an incredibly stable economy. He might not be beyond with his individual Marine micro, but he's rivaling him with the macro right now. Eddie on multiple command centers, sitting on 3 or... okay, it's not nearly as extensive, but triple sensor tower coverage. The sensor tower got a slight nerf in radius, but Terrans have made up for it by just simply building more sensor towers. Funny how math works. The rocks in the Valley of Death here are finally being taken down. Rarely do players really remember these exist, because that's such a tiny choke point. You never want to go through that contested. But opening up the opportunity could help in the long term. Marines going to be chased down. Pretty huge counterattack here wandering in. A whole lot of Banelings, but multiple tanks on multiple altitudes here. Another attack though. Ghosts trying to run. Banelings trying to chase them, and it looks like the Ghosts are going to get the better of it for now. Cure, notorious for leaving all his Ghosts on one control group. I don't think this is any exception. And he's definitely lost games because of it before, but it is the easier way to pull it off. Scarlet says, hey, Ghosts seem like a good idea. Let me borrow them. Neural Parasite is on the way. And I think the only real reason for it is potentially a Neural Parasite on those Ghosts, which has been a game... EMPing Ghosts is probably the most effective way to counter them, though not particularly reliable. More rocks. There's so many rocks on this map, and Scarlet has a problem with them. The archaeology must continue. Spire on the way. The queen. Eventually, I'll get there. Off of creep, as Cure has been quite diligent about pushing it back. High-sec auto-tracking, building armor, filling in the engineering bay upgrade tree. Spire being added on as Broodlords on the horizon. I don't think there's any world in which Mutalisks are a good idea here, but Broodlords can definitely find some effectiveness, especially in high numbers, against tanks and even ghosts. The creep is about to deny this corner base as Scarlet comes in from the left. Lings and Banes crashing through. Gonna deny the base for now and back off before going too far into the defensive line. I almost thought we flipped the screen there. No, but something very similar happening. In the bottom right, Scarlet coming back in for another pass, looking for the ghost. Overseer gonna be shot down. Scarlet trying to nab the ghost, but overall, Cure killing 2,000 more minerals and 1,000 more gas in the last few engagements. But of course, Scarlet has been mining quite comfortably from her entire side of the base. She's got every base. Not mining all of them fully, or necessarily at all, but she has every base on her half of the map. While Cure, those outlying corners are a struggle. The infestors are spotted by scans. There's no hiding from them if they're well placed. The infestors are sneaking up here. There's no ghosts with which to know a parasite, but a ghost. Oh, infestor pops out, throws a fungal, middling. Meanwhile, Hydra's from the back line. Infestor trying to come up. Not really participating in the fight, but that's a good fungal there. Blue Flame Hellbat being added in. The late game we've been seeing from a lot of Terrans lately. That semi-mech switch to complement the Ghost Bio. The Planetary killed almost as an afterthought. Those infestors not as much as Scarlet might. They definitely could have done better. Another 2,000 mineral deficit in that fight, though the gas was about the same. 5 Hellbats at a time. Are they Hellchads? Wow, they have +3. Yeah, they are. They might not have the armor, but they one-shot Hydras. Not Hydras. Zerglings, if they're able to get close enough. And Zerglings have a tendency to get close. So, quite effective. Even if you get to the Hydras, of course, they're going to be very strong as well. Not to mention, +3 mech weapons doesn't hurt for the tanks, but it does hurt against them. As Cure is about to find out, and Scarlet steals the tanks away. If you can't beat them, hire them. Blinding Cloud is used, and with the tank backline, Scarlet is able to take a very strong fight. Overall, Scarlet definitely winning that fight with the addition of a few +3 siege tanks. And now Hydralings and Banes are trickling in before Cure can really reinforce. Now the Planetary backline, as well as the high ground, are going to be enough to hold for now. But who would have thought siege tanks? The best addition to the army. The battle report is a mess now. Cure ends up killing several of his own tanks, ghosts, adding a ton of damage overall. I'm not even sure how Neural Parasite counts on the battle reports in general, or even units lost, but Scarlet continues to deny the outlying bases. Cure is slowly but surely mined out of the main. Natural's gone. Third base drying up. And the fourth and fifth still comfortably mining, but won't be for much longer. There are 10 Corruptors on the way. And I don't think, well, they can help with Liberators, of course. But a Greater Spire's already done. I'm not sure if you noticed the Infestors underneath there. Hydras, well, a bit of an awkward pathing for both sides during this match. Cure sending most of his army to try to establish this bottom right position. Scarlet not willing to let it go quietly. As I believe this is the main orbital flying off our over our fancy water features here. 8 Broodlords in the production tab. And the mules drop. Overall, Scarlet for the last 10 minutes, almost exclusively with a significant income lead. Cure scrapping out whatever minerals he can. But Scarlet now has that endgame tech. The Brood Lords with their slight speed buff, about 10%, though Broodling nerf, about 50% less time on the Broodling. So overall what that means, they're more maneuverable, but less of an impossibility to engage with the ground army. A bit more like a siege tank and less like a swarm host. Well, the Broodlords begin the siege. The anti-air Thors are in production, but they're a long way out, and there's not that much anti-air aside from a handful of ghosts. Few Marines. Planetary trying to hold. Cure coming in from all sides here. Infestors, EMP. Some of the snipes are landing, but not nearly enough to break the Brood siege. But underneath, though, the Medivacs have been holding the line, and the Hellchads have been burning through. And without some target fire, it looks like Cure's going to hold. Overall, that fight actually went quite well for Cure. I think the upgraded Hellbats with Blue Flame +3, +1 armor, Medivac support, the Broodlords weren't able to get through them very quickly. A bit of a mess. Cure killing a lot of his own units with tank-friendly fire there. That's what we're seeing. Very interesting. It's some confusing fights, so we're relying on that battle report. Cure is able to get that bottom right base as Scarlet spends some time rebuilding the unit comp she wants to come in again. Scarlet's still nearly maxed, whereas Cure is scrapping out whatever army he can. The Infestor Broodlord. Welcome back. A little bit of a different flavor to it than there was in Wings of Liberty, but the same themes apply. Broodlord's able to scamper off here. Meanwhile, Zergling's denying the orbital. And Scarlet is not too many moves from checkmate at this rate, as Cure is currently not really mining. So it doesn't get easier from here. Cure's building SCVs down to 22. Was there a burrowed... I think there was a burrowed ling under that command center, preventing it from landing again. So that valuable scan. Just throwing some fungals out here. Here come the banelings to cover. The tanks, ooh, they turned back, and the tanks are able to get some good shots off. Tank's definitely a double-edged sword right now. Cutting Cure's units almost as much. Another scan. Catches the edges of those broods. But Scarlet is letting Cure just wander into these positions. Okay. There are 5 Thors. How many Infestors are left? 11 Infestors. Whoa, and great fungal on the ghost. That's going to prevent the snipes. Still some fungals out here. Scarlet doing a great job of keeping the broods protected. So many players will just A-move into Thors and assume they have it. No. Thors are quite a force to be contended with, though it looks like Scarlet wants to hire some for her own army here. With the amount of energy those Infestors have. No scan. Neuroparasite used on the Thors. The ghosts are wandering too far forward. Gonna get obliterated by the Thors' hammers there. And the Thors themselves taking down Scarlet with a judicious use of some Terran to add into that Broodlord Infestor army. We'll take a confident game against Cure in Game 1. Beautifully done there. It at no point really felt like Cure had... There was maybe some momentum during the Marine Widowmine phases, but Scarlet with that solid macro. And Cure just unable to really crack the defenses. The Broodlord switch, not even really a switch, more of an addition. A switch implies you were so hard going in another direction that you switched it up. But no. In this case, it was just the addition of the Broodlords to the Hydroling Bane. There were no Lurkers. There weren't even that many Vipers committed to, but Scarlet managing it all well. And not an easy army to manage, I might add. Well, we'll see. she can keep up the momentum going into game 2. Grezvin. Oh no. This has shaped up to be our late game map. Royal Blood definitely has had its share so far, but Grezvin, the sheer distance between the players and where the expansions are located has created some long-winded late games. But if you like those later games, then make sure you like this video, which I think, Jimmy, did we forget? Just edit it in. Just splice it in. Yes, I could just say splice. It sounds very... You can't just say edit or cut. Splice sounds way fancier. It sounds like you know what you're doing. It's like a doctor thing. No, it's not boring science. Sorry, like and subscribe. Cure. Doctor thing. I think Cure was talking about... They had those kind of awkward interviews where they go weirdly in-depth about certain topics before the GSL finals. I distinctly remember Cure saying he was considering his name as Antidote for a while, and then saying that would have been cooler. Probably should have gone with that. And I can empathize with some of that as someone who might not be the most search engine optimized overall. But I think Cure is a pretty good name, especially pro gamer name. Short, sweet, fits the random 4 to 6 letter nouns that are important. I appreciate it. As someone who wants to make clickbait titles, great. All right, keep that character count low. I'm looking at you, Ragnarok. Ragnar, okay. Other examples? Oh, that stands out. Hero Marine. Couple queens on the way. So, maybe it's time to try some mech here. I think the reason Beyond's Terran vs. Zerg just looks so dominant is he really makes the most out of every one of those units. Every Marine drop, even Widowmines and Marauders. Cure is more of a broad strokes player. Not able to get quite as much mileage out of a Marine medevac drop. Relies a lot more on that endgame unit composition and timing. As you saw, the intense focus on the upgrades. Cure got 3-3 almost before Scarlet finished 2-2. But at some point, the Zerg maxes out. And you either need to have the late game army ready, or some other way to divide and conquer. Scarlet, much more comfortable in that late game scenario, it seems. And that's one of the first times I've seen the Hydras relied on so, as a core unit on this patch. At least recently. Usually they are just the lurker eggs, or a bit of a desperation move. Still very strong, but in relatively niche scenarios. Third Command Center. Why did I say it like I... Cure going 3CC yet again. Not changing the whole playbook up. I think a few decisions, or maybe a little bit more damage at any point, definitely could have tilted the game the other way. You gonna drive in again? A lot of damage already taken. Gets a spore. Scarlet dodges the... Okay, alright. Gotta stay threatening. I like the choice to go for it in game 1, but you can't get away with the Hellion drive in every game. Viking. We have another... It's a knee breaker build. So far, Cure has showed a very similar style to the previous game. 3CC, the early Hellion Reaper, Viking first, and last game, it was a Liberator into just a later medevac timing with Stim. This is not. The Marauders are intentionally hidden until the medevac's coming out to avoid the chances of them getting scouted by an Ovi. Though, of course, the Viking helps with that as well. And the intent here is to fly in with the Marauders, drop them out and then break the many joints of the Queen's knees with concussive shells and then allow the Hellbats to get up in their grill and start burning them. It can be remarkably effective, especially if the Zerg player is relying entirely on Queens for defense. Of course, Queens on their own are usually more than enough against most things, but this is specifically designed to minimize their effectiveness. The Baneling Nest is not done. No Spore Crawlers nearby. The Queen's not that much energy. Maybe 2 or 3 transfuses. The Marauders have just dropped out. Banelings morphing as soon as they could. But the Queens are under fire in every sense of the word. The Medivac not even moving it, just tanking the damage there. Getting maximum heals. But the Banelings are about to complete. And Cure? Well, they don't get they don't get as much damage as they could have. Cure's starting to thin out here. Losing the Medivac does blunt the force of this significantly, but still not enough Banelings to kill all of the Hellbats, and the Zerglings behind are trickling in. Even the Viking on the ground here. A lot of the Queens will die, 7 drones, and it's not over yet. And remember, this is 3 CC for Cure. This is not an all-in by any means. It is actually quite... It's relatively cheap for what he invested. And the damage is being done. Now here's the real kicker. The Liberator goes straight towards the main. It'll scout the Spire. More Hellions coming in. The Queens continue to be pumped out of the hatcheries. Overall, well, the Liberator is taken down, but 10 drones with it. And Scarlet, down to 56 drones with no upgrades here, though Double NG Bay is just now finishing. The Spire was technically spotted. I'm not sure how much Cure was looking at it, but the attack has been whittled down and the momentum eventually ground to a halt. But at what cost? 9 Queens, 42 Zerglings. It was 13 Hellbats for Cure there, so not a particularly cheap endeavor. But it kept Scarlet off his back for long enough to get that third base established. There are turrets on the way. I think he most definitely noticed the Spire, the Liberator. Hellions trying to come in. Oh, Cure. Splitting. Minimizes damage, but the Queens are here. Just gonna drive in. Mutas pop out. Hellions getting what they can. Well, they're getting still good. 9 more drones. And now Scarlet against a Cure with 69 SCVs. Scarlet gonna have a tough time getting the damage done. Already turrets. This is the big weakness of Mutas nowadays. It's very hard to find a window of actual damage where you can keep the Terran, or Protoss in many cases, very busy. And even though Cure went for that Marauder Hellbat push, that still leaves you with plenty of infrastructure to build Marines and mines later on, especially with how much damage it did, how much it slowed down Scarlet in general. Is there Baneling speed? Yes, Ling and Baneling speed, the most important things. Combat Shield is finishing for Cure. Bit of an exposed 4 CC building here. Widowmine's gonna burrow. Second factory, delayed. The Mutas are on the other side of the map as Cure moves out with Lings. Not with Lings, Marines, Mines, and Elbats. 1-1 on the way. Widowmine drop. Finds 4 kills. Looking for more. A handful more. Anything to distract as the main attack comes in. And this time Scarlet, not really much to defend. The Mutas are headed back home. But the hatchery is down. The 4th base will be destroyed alongside 13 drones. Cure didn't restart building that 4th command center yet. Should be getting on that momentarily. But 4th hatch, alternative 4th now. Rebuilt. Hive on the way for Scarlet even before 1-1 is done. But Cure has a 40 supply lead nearly. It is very tough to gain back this momentum as Zerg. The Banelings trying to come in. Widowmine's targeted by the Mutas, but the Marines having a field day behind. And GG, Cure. More than enough damage done. Will grind it back. It's 1-1. Kira with a very capable... I think the key there is, while Kira could have done a little more with the Hellbat Marauder, it still really slowed down Scarlet. She had to focus on dealing with that for several minutes in the relatively early game, which slows down all the queens pulled off the line, minimizes your injects. It obviously minimizes your creep spread as well. So, Kira keeping Scarlet essentially under wraps for that time. And mutas, especially mutas who are scouting, are just not going to find that damage overall. You're not going to find the SCV kills. They're going to have turrets. And Widow Mines are a constant threat. So overall, a good attack, defense, and follow through from Kira will earn him a game and tie things up. As finally, Jimmy, are we ready? Okay. Game 3 on Babylon. This will decide it. Who moves up and who moves out. 1-1. I think about even in total. The net result of games 1 and 2 is about even, as Scarlet had a solid grasp of game 1, even though Kira made some good moves, whereas Kira had the same in game 2, but a bit more concisely. Babylon, 50-50. Nothing untoward to start. No proxy hatch, no early roach, no proxy rex, no mass reaper. So, looks like we're going to be playing out our standard macro openers yet again. Not particularly surprising. 3cc for cure? Is that the cure to all his ailments? Or, I'd love to see a roach timing from Scarlet. I think Terrans get too comfortable with their 3cc. The problem is, it is significantly more committed for a Zerg to do a roach all-in than it is for a Terran to go 3cc and then invest in defense. A lot of the time, the Zerg ends up doing damage because the Terran, one, goes 3cc and then doesn't bother scouting or just assumes the Zerg, just because they have a third, is not going to do an attack. But Dark exploits this by getting a third, sometimes even looking like getting up to like 45 drones, and then boom, Ravager. Oh my god! The Queens, as you know, they hate other similar things, like birds, because they remind them of how they cannot fly. That is why, of course, Scarlet slaughtered that sad space chicken. I don't want to hear people telling me it looks more like a vulture. I don't care. It's a space chicken. Until proven otherwise. Third CC on the way. Here, keeping a diligent look on the edge of the creep. Scarlet. I don't know what you'd change up. Maybe a little quicker main nest. Overall, an unscouted Hellbat Marauder push is going to be tough to deal with. And in fact, Kira just lost the medevac right off the bat, which could have been a major annoyance if it stayed alive, so. But it is one of those builds that probably wants a series, if that. You don't want to be pulling it out every game because these Zerg will adapt. And that is why, I think part of the reason why you see so many Zergs in those best of 7, best of 5s finding even more success, as Zerg is, as you know, the adaptable race. They gain essence and experience, and it becomes easier. Since most of the early game response consists of where do I put my queens, not whether I build them, as you learn more and more of the strategies your opponent is going to employ, you can learn more and more of how to shut them down. Banshee is on the way. Second Banshee with Cloak. So it appears this is not the end of it. We'll see if Hyperflight will be following it. Unlikely, considering the Stim Pack also joining the production tab. Rock's taking down Scarlet. Shows she is not a big fan of the Terrain Republic here. Which obviously has a Terran bias. Queen's wandering around. More opportunities opened up for the Zerglings to flank. There's another set of rocks on one of the main attack paths here as well. And this looks to be the most cookie-cutter standard game so far. We've got Hellion Banshee into 3cc bio with double NG bang, but Scarlet this time has invested in very quick Evo chambers and very quick 1-1. Is there a spore? Getting a second spore here, but the lair was delayed because of these upgrades. But spore crawlers give enough detection radius that the queen should be alright in minimizing damage. So a fourth base is on the way. Cure this time is going to be fighting against a better upgraded Zerg, rather than the opposite. Scarlet. Creep spread pushed back on many angles here, but it's some of it. Hellions roast a handful of Zerglings. Going to keep some pressure onto the base. Looking to deny the creep tumors here. Will kind of succeed. Doesn't quite finish off the last one. Banshees head back. Creep on the left flank. Multiple scans. That's a few hundred more minerals that the mules could have gathered. That will slow down the production a little. Of course, that's energy on the queens, being countered by energy on the orbitals, etc., etc. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not here to do math. I'm here to talk. I'm not sure that was a counterpoint, but... Moving on! Wow. That just fell real flat there. Hellions. A few more creep tumors. The Overlord moves as fast as it can to escape the Marines, which is slower than even a flying building. Does somehow escape, though. A lot of that going on this game so far. Creep tumor at a couple HP. Overlord doesn't quite die. Scarlet, the little wins throughout the map so far are hers. 15 mainlings, 20 Zerglings in production, as Scarlet realizing the attacks are on the way, both flanks. We've got the Banshees in the main, which will draw some of the Queens out of position. It means more units need to be committed to defend the fourth. And there is no alternative fourth here. Scarlet already losing 17 drones between the Banshees and the Marines. Where are the Banelings? Many of the Banelings rolling in, but Cure has built a hard wall. And Scarlet didn't adjust the Baneling trajectory here in order to deal with it. More Banelings crashing. The Hellions tanking some of the damage. Surprised that Cure doesn't have Hellbats with... Oh my god! Cure moment. The People's Terran. As the Banelings on the other side of the map drawing his attention, that means the Marines will pay the price. 15 SCVs are taken down, equaling the damage that Cure managed to do. And more Zerglings making their way across. So big economic damage for both sides. 22 drones to 15 SCVs, but more being added on. More Banelings hitting the Marines. And at some point, you won't have enough reinforcements in order to hold your base. Well, Scarlet realizing why those Banelings took the scenic route around. Another wave of Ling Bane. 63 drones will probably be the total for a while. Target fire is there, but the Banelings pop out on creep, slingshotting in towards the Marines. Here now, decent spread. Not perfect, as the Banelings crash through. 2-2 is still in the mail right now. Delivered momentarily. For both sides, but way quicker for Scarlet here. And with 2-2 done, the Marines are going to be even more hard-pressed to defend against the Banes. Creep is now on the doorstep, or at least on the front lawn. Zerglings drawing out the Widowmine hits. The one thing that could have really cut into the force of this attack. The medevac count is so damn high, Zerglings and Banelings can't jump quite high enough to take them down. But more Banelings trapped in a prison of their own design, the SCVs, but looking away, and the legs, the Brenda! Oh no, Cure unable to handle both sides of Banes. And Scarlet fully exploiting that so far. As Cure now pushed all the way back to the natural. 52 SCVs still intact, which is enough to rebuild if Scarlet ever gives a chance. A scan? That's almost like a GG scan. But I'm seeing a relatively limited drone count. I think Kier thinking, okay, I gotta fight this out. That was a scan you do just to check how many bases your opponent has before you tap out of the game. But that Widow Mine gonna fill Kier with a bit more determination. Just Marines, no Marauders added in. Another mine though, huge chunk. But still, the upgrades means the Marines not able to grind through nearly fast enough here. Closing in, the Banelings doing even more economic damage. The spread means Marines will survive, but the SCVs take another hit. Down to 44 of them. 2-2 gonna kick in. Queen, Brenda! Why are you here? The creep is now encroaching. It's on the front porch. It's about to knock on the door, and in fact, those lawn gnomes, which are the Widow Mines. You know what? Widow Mines are lawn gnomes. They're burrowed lawn gnomes with grenades that they throw at things nearby. That makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. Unlike that move, which was driving onto the creep with the Marines. Is there drilling claws? That may be the saving grace. Scarlet only had 62 drones. Sounds like a lot. Not nearly enough to do much more than tech up. She agrees. 13 more drones in production, as these attacks have been getting less and less over the last few attempts. Over the last 420 here, Kira's destroyed 6,500 minerals, 800 gas to 47,250. But Scarlet's momentum continues. Another round of Lings and Banes. Those Banes not closing with the mineral line, and that's the key point. But Kier takes a supply lead. Well, most of it's in medevacs, as there are 10 medevacs, 20 supply of medevacs right now. As there's been nothing to really whittle down that count. That's just too many medevacs. At this point, build Liberators, or just don't bother with the starport. And Kier isn't. Building mines, Marines, and SCVs. Few more Banelings trickling in. Mules here vulnerable. Oh, even more SCVs gonna go down. But Kier maintains the supply lead. Those upgraded Marines now drilling claws. Kier trying to rebuild his walls. And knows he's on a bit of a timer, splitting off some of those medevacs, as there's certainly no point in having 10 of them for 20 Marines. +3 attack starts. Falling back. Oh, that's too many Banelings. Picks up and gets out. Scarlet now, though, with the drone count, if not the tech, to... Oh, what is the income? Oh, there you go. Yeah, the drone count making all the difference here. Adding more drones, which might be overkill. The only chance Kier has is to take ridiculously cost-effective fights, which so far he's done, as Scarlet takes worse and worse angles with less and less units, at least in those engagements on the other side of the map. Kier has lost 4,000 less minerals and only 750 gas. Not that that's particularly relevant when your units are Marines and Widow Mines. 3-3's on the way. Kier leaning heavily on some Minecraft gameplay. Scarlet, is this an Ultra game? As this is one of the few scenarios where your opponent is so low tech and low economy that the Ultras might be able to just close it out. Viper's on the way. No 3-3 melee or Carapace, though. Scarlet has taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bases. Quite confident in her position, but Kier still has quite an army supply as well. And the Banelings whittled down by the mine. Overseers show up, but a few more. Oh, God. Oh, my. Oh, wow. Well, that certainly isn't... Oh, my God. Kier gets 1 medevac of Marines as both sides engaged. Scarlet keeps finding engagements on both sides of the map, where the Banelings are rolling in towards the Marines. And Kier tries to split his attention between the two. Unfortunately, not well enough. He is human. Much to his dismay. A bit be underwhelming. Ultralisk Cavern. Scarlet looking to close it out. with those new diet lisks. So far, Cure has held the back line, though not been able to make any progress on the other side. Meanwhile, Baneling's crashing through into the third. Cure not looking! Oh no! 12 SCVs! Widowmines connect! Almost all of them triggered, which is really going to minimize the damage here. Another Widowmine, but 22 SCVs in the past few seconds. And Cure, 95 to 38 workers. Chitinous plating, +3/+3, is on the way for Skarlet, completed for Cure, who maintains the higher army supply, if partially because Skarlet has 95 drones, which is not an insignificant income advantage. Alright, Skarlet is in a different tax bracket right now. Though we'll see if the Widowmines are able to collect. Well, handful of Banelings rolling forward. Cure realizes the vulnerability of this particular strategy. The map is looking more and more Zerg. Are those changelings? Yes. They're scaring me on the minimap. Banelings dealt with. Skarlet now has money in the bank. Full energy Vipers. As she closes in. She's attempted to lay down the killing blow for 5, 6, 7 minutes now. But Cure has held. And Cure stands strong. That is his specialty, is slow and steady. Though, wow. Oh, Widowmine hits the most valuable unit, the Viper. If it dies before the fight, could be quite helpful. That is so many Banelings. 100 Zerglings. Gonna be 50 Banelings here. 63 Banelings. But Cure has 129 army supply. Skarlet can't make more than 103. So we'll see if those numbers add up. That's a lot of Banelings, but the minefield here is quite a lot to contend with as well. The rocks being taken down. Parasitic Bomb. Several of the medevacs eating the brunt of it. The rock's still being chewed through. A Widowmine drop taken out as well on the way back. Probably a select all army Archie, to be honest there. But the mines are pushing up as Cure starts to realize, without Ghosts, without Liberators, it's not going to get any easier to deal with this army from Skarlet. First wave of the attack. Infestors revealed here a bit awkwardly. Ultralisks are on the way, but Cure still pushing through. Finally drives back some of the creep that's been plaguing him for most of the match. Will the Ultras be the killing blow, or will they be the greatest throw, as Skarlet has not successfully killed Cure, and now Cure has a massive Terran army. This is one of those scenarios where either you just wave after wave crush the Terran, or maybe die to a critical mass of just too much army to deal with. Fungals are thrown out here. Widowmines getting involved. A few Marauders taken out on the front lines for Cure. But here we go. The Banelings rolling in, the Ultras. They have all their upgrades. Speed, chitinous plating, diet plan, +3/+3. More Lings and Banes. More Widowmines to protect them. There's just so many mines that Cure actually kills all the Zerglings with mines. But can he do it here? Infestors, Banelings rolling in. Mines getting huge hits, but the Fungal slows things down. And the main brunt of Cure's bio is being overrun. The Ultras are chewing up the finely minced pieces as Cure tries to get away from the Banelings. And double the supply for Skarlet as the Zerg swarm. It thins out, but 9 Ultralisks in production. Cure tenacious as a Terran, but just simply does not have the control to contend with the sheer amount of Zerg that Skarlet is putting on the field. That essentially 10 minutes of income coming to fruition here, as Cure is barely mining and Skarlet is mining almost everything. 92 drones still. No hope. One of the orbitals has been... The main base and the natural have been floated away. Cure still has a lot of army. Scarlet coming in for another wave. Fungals on the front line. Widow Mines connect. More Fungals. Ultras. Huge targets here, and Scarlet overruns Cure and finalizes this match. A bit of a slog, but another macro game goes in favor of Scarlet. Takes home the 2-1. Cure simply not able to find the efficient fights, and Scarlet exploiting the multi-pronged Banelings. Great to see that solid macro out of the Canadian wild card. I'm hoping to see more of it at I Am Katowice, and I hope you enjoyed. And check out this video. Could be Scotland. Handpicked by Jimmy just for you. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. What made your day a little bit better? Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.